Hi, my name is Christina Beier, and this is my informative speech for Communications 101 at Liberty University. Here is my audience. Mitch, Tracy, and Albert is behind the camera. Let's get started. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, and some people, craving money, have wandered from true faith and pierced themselves with many sorrows. I have been working at Sierra Bookkeeping for the last 5 years. What I have noticed is that not only is my job of an accountant important, but it is also an opportunity for me and those who work with me to disseminate God's love, compassion, and His values to the rest of the world. Let's get started. Accounting is an occupation that is capable of not only preparing and analyzing financial information, but also bringing love, compassion, honesty, and God's truth into the business world. What we're going to discuss today is what an accountant does, what education is required to be an accountant, what the current job market is like, and how accounting can be used to demonstrate the values of love, compassion, honesty, human life, and forgiveness and redemption to those who do not know the Lord. First, let's look at what an accountant does. An accountant inputs, prepares, examines, and analyzes accounting records. They also prepare financial statements and other financial reports. Their ultimate goal is to assess the accuracy and conformance to reporting and procedural standards. This is set in place by the GAAP. Next, an accountant's job is to compute taxes and prepare tax returns. They also analyze business operations. But most importantly, their biggest job is to report all this information to the CEO or the board of the corporation for which they are working. Next, what does it take to become an accountant? Well, it takes a lot of education. First, a bachelor's degree. And that is for a normal accounting position. However, if you want to become a CPA or you want to work for a corporation, you might be required to take a CPA exam, which usually requires additional education and a CPA license. Next, an accountant makes about $61,000 a year. Now this was as of 2010, and I think this number might be a little bit low only because of the current need for accountants in the market today. So what does the growth for accountants look like? Well, expect to grow about 16% over the next 10 years. But again, economically, this is probably a low number because more and more companies are hiring outside accountants to analyze their finances. So, how is it that God can use an accountant to demonstrate His love, compassion, and honesty? Well, let me tell you a story. My mom, who is the CEO of Sierra Bookkeeping, Patricia Romanelli, steps into businesses every day. And she gets involved with the people's lives. It's not only about business, but it's also about relationship. And because of this, she is able to disseminate God's love to everyone she meets. Next, how does she show compassion to these people? Well, through bankruptcy counseling is a good example. A lot of these companies over the last 2 years have had the unfortunate reality of having to file for bankruptcy. But the beauty of it is that my mom counsels them that, you know what, you've been in business for the last 20 or 30 years, you've done everything right, and the economy has just hit you really hard. This is what the bankruptcy laws are there to do. They're there to protect the people who have been honest and trustworthy and have just fallen on hard times. Next, honesty. This is the big one. My mom, Patricia Romanelli, will not cheat on her financial reports. Period. End of discussion. If you ask her to do so, she will show you the door. It is just not what we're about. This is how she shows what God's honesty looks like. Next, how can an accountant demonstrate the value of human life? Well, this is a tricky one. My mom works for an organization called the Community Pregnancy Center. It is a pro-life organization that counsels women on their options for their unborn babies. She prays for and does work for this organization for free. She does this because she values human life and she knows that God values human life. Next, how is it that she can communicate the gospel of forgiveness and redemption to those who do not know the Lord? Well, she says that once a week, she gets the opportunity to give the salvation message to someone. I was incredibly shocked to hear that my mom was an evangelist going out into the world. So what have we learned today? Well, it is important to remember that not only does an accountant create and report financial information, but they also have a tremendous opportunity to practice God's values of love, compassion, honesty, human life, and to disseminate the salvation message. I think it's also important to remember that we all have the opportunity to do this every time we step outside of our doors. St. Francis of Assisi once said, "Preach the gospel at all times, and when necessary, use words." That is what I like to live by. Thank you for your time.